strained before, and he had no fuel in the tank.
Yeah.
So we got him to a point, we started having his breakfast. His academic self-esteem started to come along the longer he was in school. You know, we talk about kids, we've had kids transfer here from public schools and locally,
Right.
and they weren't used to being in class all day. So in the beginning of the school year, they'd be in class till lunch. It was a struggle. They get to the end of the day, they were almost wiped out. And then if we had the gym open and they were doing some conditioning, the kids weren't able to function. It took them a couple of months to understand that a normal kid is in school all day, and maybe he's doing something to work on a sport, and then he goes home and functions. And then September and October would go by, and then November would start, and now all of a sudden basketball begins. And now the young man has to go to school all day, he's accountable all day, and now he comes to practice, and our 2-hour practice is a test every day. And it's not even like a pop quiz, it's like a test. And the kids in the very beginning couldn't get through the test, and they love basketball, but they weren't used to up to 3 o'clock functioning academically, and then maybe 4 to 6 having to function at a high level basketball-wise with no break. And then they realize all of a sudden, wow, I can't be watching videos till 1 o'clock in the morning. I can't be on the phone. I have to get to sleep. I have to eat better because I'm never going to be able to function at this level. And they would realize that their peers could. So like Jermaine Womack comes into school as a junior.
Very good example.
And
right.
Jermaine was a talented kid.
A mess.
These things he had never done before. His entire junior year was a wash because he just couldn't get it done. And he winds up as a senior, having a very good senior year. Liz helps us to win a state championship, goes to junior college and graduates from Utah State. And he lives down in Florida now. He's a sheriff's officer in Florida.
It's incredible.
And a very, very good friend, Shaquille O'Neal's. And
it's an incredible story.
Yes, he was wandering the streets. Like the fact that he found the right place and had to take almost 10 months to adapt to the fact that he'd have to sit through 7 or 8 periods of school and be held accountable all day, catch up to the kids who are ahead of him, and not take any days off, because if you take a day off and you're behind, you're never going to narrow the gap. So it's...
How do you deal with the issue of a lot of these kids who have an inflated idea of how hard they work and how good they are, and getting them to see the truth and be more realistic in terms of helping them plan out the way that they need to improve to get better?
Well, we have a lot of, I don't know if we have dialogues. I think we have a lot of monologues. You know, I say that this deal here at St. Anthony's is, it's not a democracy. It's really not even a benevolent dictatorship. It's pretty much, I tell them what to do. You know, I know that over the last 20 years, I've heard all over the place that coaches feel a need to explain to the kids why they do things. I don't feel compelled to do that. And it's because I know the kids, and I know how little thought a male adolescent is putting into anything. So I'm not going to waste time explaining things. I'm just going to tell them, you know, explain how to do something. And I say to them all the time, this is blind loyalty. You're doing exactly what I tell you to do. If you get confused, just go into the athletic office, open up some of the yearbooks, look at some of the success we've had, and then the best thing that happens is the older kids come back. The mentoring here, which is probably the best thing we're able to do, is the college kids come home, the guys who are playing in Europe come home, they come to the gym, and they talk about like what they do on a regular basis. Like a Donald Copeland, who played at Seton Hall University, is as hard a working person as you're ever going to come across. When he puts the basketball down for the final time, and I think he'll play for a while yet, he's going to have a very good career in Europe. When he puts the ball down, whatever he does next, he will do very well, because he's organized, he's passionate, he has pride, he still has goals. You know, he just works. So when he comes to the gym, I'll just say to him, grab one of the kids, just tell him what your routine is right now, Don. And Donald may go someplace, he may go over to New York Athletic Club, and he'll go over and work out for 2 hours. He'll come back to Jersey City, and he'll go to a gym, and he just had his ACL, surgery in his ACL, so he really can't run yet. So he'll go into a gym, and he'll shoot foul shots for exactly 1 hour. And after he shoots free throws for 1 hour, so he keeps his muscle memory on a shot, then he'll go home, he eats properly, and he'll play as long as possible. When they hear that, and then I say, and I'm asking you guys right now, at a season, to lift for an hour and go in the gym and work on skills twice a week for like an hour and a half to just do that stuff on your own. And then you hear what Copeland does every day, or you hear what, I'll tell them stories about Bobby or David Rivers. You know, David Rivers would dribble from one neighborhood in Jersey City to another, and he could dribble through like traffic, and he'd be like talking to somebody, he'd be like spinning off cars and stuff. He's just, you know, amazing how much, you know, he wanted to be successful. So they're battling their rankings, all the stuff that people tell them right now. But here, this is still, you know, the term old school. This is an old building, and it's still an old school attitude towards, you know, what we think is what kids need to hear.
But somebody like Marcus had an epiphany where he was really struggled in school, grew up in the Curry's Woods housing projects, Boys and Girls Club kid, struggled academically his whole life, really struggled at 40 school. Yes. But it's something that the dream, the light was lit when he came into St. Anthony's. Here's a kid who went 2 or 3 periods in the day and put his head on the desk. Yes. He didn't eat in the morning either. Yep. But you said somebody like Marcus turned out who struggled academically, one of the smartest players you ever had.
Yeah. Marcus Williams is what Gary's talking about. He was one of the central figures in the book written about St. Anthony's.
Right.
And he was a kid that came from, a kid at risk, came from a neighborhood where when I went to see the 8th grade vice principal and principal, they weren't sure he was going to be able to do the work at St. Anthony's. Athletically, he was just a terrific athlete, and we thought his competitiveness, he'd get to school, and he had the Mike Rosario fire about being involved in different sports. He would have been a great football player, would have been a great baseball player. But if he had gone someplace else with his friends and they weren't going to go to school, then Marcus would not have gone to school. So he came from his neighborhood, came with another young man. The other young man was more gifted than Marcus. The people at school there felt that standardized test scores and things showed that he would have a better chance. The two reach St. Anthony's. This is one of the stories about the decisions you make in life. The two come to St. Anthony's. The one doesn't get his hair cut. Now, one of my rules are you have to get your hair cut. Can't have braided hair, can't have long hair. You're giving something up to be a part of this. So the other young man says to the kids, I'm not going to get my hair cut. I know coach is going to come to me because he wants me to play. And then when he lets me play, when he lets me come with my hair long, then I'll come over. Well, it turns out he gets thrown out of school, gets involved in like, I guess, a street robbery on the streets in the city. Marcus, meanwhile, is the fact that he's getting a chance to play varsity basketball as a freshman fuels his desire. He's a freshman around the right kind of older kids. The older kids are very good. There's good leadership. So he's playing with these older kids now. They're helping him through freshman year. The other young man's course of life starts heading away. Marcus graduates from St. Anthony's. He doesn't have standardized scores. His grades aren't high enough, but we can appreciate the fact that he has graduated from high school. This is the first one. The family's done that. We now want him to go away to junior college. He battles us on this. This becomes like frustrating because I have a great situation for him. So he stays locally at junior college, gets his associate's degree. Right. It's a battle for him because he's not even experiencing college life like he should. He goes from that local junior college. He goes to St. Francis in Brooklyn. Goes to plays for 2 years for Brian Nash. And after playing 2 years for Brian Nash, graduates. And he's back home locally now working. He's an
emergency medical technician. He's doing great.
And the other young man, as the course goes, as he keeps ascending up and gradually just getting better at things, getting a better understanding why he's doing things, that it's not just sports. The other young man, kind of is in a parallel course because he's still playing. Then all of a sudden, he quits his high school team as a senior. And I guess as Marcus is beginning his 3rd year of college now at St. Francis, the other young man commits 6 armed robberies in the northern part of Jersey City. And now I think he's doing, is it 8 years? Maybe doing like 8 years in prison.
But intellectually, he was really running the team, junior and senior year.
He knew he may not have had.
I mean, it was mind-boggling.
His ability to understand in basketball, he knows all 5 positions in every single thing. And he's so analytical that he went to a game, and one of my kids was playing a college game locally, one of his teammates. And he went to the game, and he was sitting behind the bench during the game. And in the first half of the game, I think they got down about 20 to a local division, like the New Jersey Athletic Conference. Got down about 20, and he was focusing his attention in the first half on his former teammate, telling him things that he should be doing. At halftime when they come out, he's really annoyed, he's embarrassed.